Well, good afternoon, everybody, and welcome to the Domestic Marketing webinar that's being presented by Success Matrix. Today's webinar is the fourth and final webinar in the Queensland Tourism Industry Business Capability Development Program. This is a 3-year program, COVID-19, restarting, transitioning, and resilience. The program will be offered over 2 stages and is going to cover 4 key business activities that have been identified to help Queensland tourism businesses prepare for reopening. So stage 1 consists of 4 weekly webinars. Today is the final in those 4, and they're available to all tourism, travel, hospitality operators across the states. We are recording all of these webinars so that they will be able to be viewed anytime on the QTIC website. Stage 2 is then going to include up to 4 sessions of a 60-minute one-on-one online coaching session that's going to be available to eligible tourism and hospitality businesses that have participated in or viewed one or more of the 4 webinars. Now, the Queensland Government has allocated $3 million to fund and deliver this tourism industry business capability development program for the tourism industry over a 3-year period. It began in August of 2018 and will continue through to June of 2021. So today's panelists are not new to us. Success Matrix launched the webinar series with COVID's reopening preparation just a few weeks back. So we're actually welcoming back this afternoon Amanda Kruse, who's the Managing Director of Success Matrix. Now, she's brought her collaborative team back together again today. Amanda has walked in a day of most of your shoes, having been a tour and accommodation owner herself across Queensland, and as well as Sydney and Melbourne. And she's also worked with many other tourism businesses right across the state with her consultancy firm, along with running a regional tourism organisation. She's also travelled right across Australia and the world, marketing Queensland for over 25 years, building her marketing, consumer and trade intel, which she loves to now share through her real life coaching programs. And today she's going to share with us some of her few cost-effective marketing tips. But I'm sure that Amanda will agree that while she's walked a few days in many of your shoes, she will quite gladly say that she's never had to go through quite what some of the operators are going through right now. Also joining us, we have Krista. So Krista Hauritz is the tourism and events is joining us again. She's worked with the industry for over 25 years, well known to many people within the Queensland tourism industry, beginning as a research assistant for the University of Queensland to senior positions in RTOs and TEQ. She established her own tourism and events specialist strategy and event business, and she's been able to work alongside industry now with the who's who in Queensland and the who's who in Australia, right across industry. Now, Krista has been doing some great collaborative work, in particular with the Granite belt, and she's going to give us some insight into how they were way ahead of the game when it came to preparation and how now they may be dealing with some of the challenges that have been presented to them. So welcome again, Krista. And Liz Ward is the CEO of Tourism Tribe. Amanda calls Liz the digital guru. I do too. She is a digital strategist and the co-founder of a digital learning platform called tourismtribe.com, who are offering bonus access to their incredible digital library through this Success Matrix coaching program. So Liz is incredibly well known to the tourism industry for having developed Tourism Queensland first destination and booking websites, as well as being the creator of the Australian Tourism Data Warehouse that is now one of the most important digital platforms for tourism operators across Australia. And today's Liz focus is going to be on direct marketing, and she's also going to have some practical tips and tricks for us in terms of content and social marketing. Now, we're well aware that this afternoon, I'm sure that there's many of you who've joined us, and thank you, but many others who perhaps aren't with us online right now because they're dealing with the latest in the announcements. Oh, by the way, I'm Sofie Formica. Great to be back with you once again. You know, we fully understand that this is more than just a roller coaster, and that today's announcements will have sent a lot of operators who are just beginning to feel like they were seeing the end of the tunnel retreating again. But all of the information that you're going to be shared with you today is incredibly relevant for wherever we are in the challenges of COVID, and certainly in terms of building resilience to come out of it. Because one thing we all can agree on is that the amount of goodwill at the moment for people to be able to share their knowledge and share their learnings and work together is like we've never seen it before. So with that, I'm going to give Amanda an opportunity to comment on today's closures and what that means for many of the operators across Queensland. And in that first webinar, Amanda, you really talked about the domestic market throughout the series. And now, yet again, we're talking about how important it is in terms of rebound for some time to be focusing on the domestic market. We mentioned a roller coaster. It is much more than a roller coaster. It feels like it's the roller coaster that is bound to make our heads spin. And it sure has, yeah, it sure has been that. So we saw Victoria locked out, of course, and now with today's announcement for Sydney and the ACT. So I'd love to get your comments on that, and then perhaps you can start to talk us through some of those things that operators need to be talking about and thinking about when we come to creating what will be, you know, a plan moving forward.
Thanks, Sophie. Yes, look, you know, we've that roller coaster effect. We named it that early on in this, and at the moment it does seem like the horror ride, and it doesn't seem to even have an annual pass. It's like an unlimited ticket that just doesn't seem to stop. And yeah. Yes, I feel so much for our industry today. I really found it hard this morning to think, how do we do this? How do we find the words? I've spoken to quite a few of our clients, and I know the girls have as well. And it is heartbreaking. And you and I spoke earlier, and you were sort of saying, I sort of, you know, thought this could happen. And I said to you, I think I must have been in denial. I just was so positive thinking and so tunneled to the fact that, you know, where we're going, what we're doing, you know, and just keeping focused, even though I kept saying the whole bit, but quick, you know, backwards and forwards. I just wanted to stay in that positive, you know, mindset. So, you know, even for me being that type of person, you know, it really paralyzed me this morning. And then talking to some of our beautiful operators, you know, I found myself with, you know, with tears, and it just, that's the realness. You know, it's it's not a book, it's not a movie, it's this is our lives, and it's real, and it's a time that you know, on these days that we just have to probably, you know, stop for a moment and be kind to ourselves, and to remember that this is not our fault. You know, no one of us has caused this to happen. And I think it goes back to those early days where we were, you know, sort of a bit shocked about everything. So I think the most important thing again today is to remember that it is not our fault. We are good operators. You know, we are all working really hard, and that, you know, I just want people to continue to have faith in themselves and in their beautiful businesses, and remember just how great they are. I think that's a very important, you know, part of it.
You're absolutely right, and that's one of the things you and I talked about, and I think why these webinars are going to be even more important, especially if people need to look back and be reminded of the steps along the way, because we can't lose hope. We have to maintain that level of optimism, even at a time when it's particularly difficult to do that.
That's right, and like I said, it did paralyze me, but then it was like, okay, let's get on with this. And, you know, slide number 1, we've changed that.
All right,
you know,
let's go then.
Closed. Road closed, and we're back to interstate, and here we go again, you know. And and I think, you know, my key message when I was reading even some things that we did in the toolkit, and I reread things as to, do we need to change some things for today? And I felt, you know what, no, because we have covered it. And the fact is, you know, we have to really look at the way we react to this roller coaster ride will be what reflects in our rebound and our recovery, and what we recognise as the opportunities along this ride will be what delivers us the path for success. So we've just got to stay true to getting back and looking at that planning, and going back to that intrastate, flip it back, do the pivoting that we've already learnt, you know, to do and know how to do, and we need to continue to do that. We continue to market in the moment, and just, you know, look at where those partners are that we can do that with. So just to reflect, I suppose, on some of those points that we've done right across the 3 webinars, Sophie, is, you know, and I've just even changed this again this morning, as far as it's just, you know, we've just got to keep ears and eyes open all the time on that target. And as we know, it moved last week. You know, we went to do last week's webinar and Sydney dropped out of the market. We go to do today, and New South Wales and ACT's dropped out of the market. We've lost that drive market and fly market out of there. So then, we've got to look, okay, what's this, what do we go back to that other target? So we've just got to be really, that nimbleness, that adapting, being really quick to focus on those things. And by having that planning in place, it's there. You can just be jumping backwards and forwards and doing that. We've got to look back to that Queensland market and that beautiful loyalty that we had from Queensland at the beginning. So we've just got to go back to that messaging, get back onto your social, ditch what you're doing with some of the interstate stuff at the moment, save some money on there, save some effort on there, back to where we were. Look at those fantastic things, even with what we did with the locals, and go back to some of that. So we'll look at some things like that today. And again, looking at database creation. So we're going to do a few talks about that today, but that, creating databases and not just thinking, how am I going to get that database and I'm going to do it on my own. Looking at where those key customers are within Queensland, they're your customers, who else has them, and do joint promotions with them to be able to utilise their database. So we'll look at some of those opportunities as well. And then a really big thing is going back to that unique selling point and that elevator pitch, and making it per profile, per customer type, per market. At the moment, you can't be all things to everybody. So you do have to swing that pitch a bit.
No, you mentioned that, the USP, or unique selling proposition, unique selling point, however you want to put it, and this idea of the sales pitch. And we've been working with so many different operators throughout promotions across Queensland, and it seems to be that not everyone can really quickly and succinctly articulate what that pitch is, particularly when you have to pivot a little bit over who it is that you're talking to. But with iPhones and social media today, it all has to be really sharp and really motivating, sometimes with just an image or a few words or a value add, right?
Oh, exactly. I mean, that phone, that's the space you've got. It comes up usually with one photo and a caption that maybe has 3 dot points on it. So, you've got to do that. And if you're doing a little video story, with Instagram, and if you're doing things on FaceTime, those captions, you've got to be able to, articulate that. But even when you're having that, when everything you're doing in that storytelling, Bram brought it up in that second webinar about the storytelling, and being able to, it really is being able to articulate your USP into a little story, and it's got to have the hook. The hook is the big thing, and the boys talked about that in webinar 2. So I think people, if you haven't got that, go back and have another look at that webinar, and in your coaching, use one of your sessions in your coaching as that, to be able to get that USP and that pitch per customer profile and per market correct. One of the things I've just put here in that is that I do a lot of work up and down the coast, and of course that reef, it actually goes quite a while from the south right up to the north, and I get all the time when I say, so what's your USP? Oh, we have the reef. I'm like, oh, funny about that. So there's a lot of other people, and I know there's a few people in the audience that may be there today who've heard me say that to them before, and it's the truth of it. So yes, it's a fantastic hook for the whole of Queensland and for Australia. It's an amazing hook. But if you're going to be creating the hook for you, and especially when we're talking in our intrastate market, and we're competing against that in intrastate, you've got to have why the reef with you. So, I've used that example there with Bundaberg. It's actually in German because it's showing a pivot of how they've gone from international to domestic with that. So I just thought I'd show the fact that it, they've used it across the world, and that is beach, reef, and rum. So they really push that fact that they're on the beach, that they've got the culinary side of it, and then they've got the reef. So they're using 3 hooks there. They also hook into Fraser Island as well, so they go cross-regional, and they do it as a hook there as well. So you've got to look at what it's not just the one thing. It's got to be people, especially if they're going to be driving distances. And with the situation again today, we're going to go back to that drive market. They're going to drive all the way to you. They need to know the whole story. And at the moment, the reef mightn't be their story. It might be golf that's going to get them there. It's just going to be different things. So find that hook.
Now, we've made a real effort throughout today's presentation to incorporate some of the questions that have been sent through in advance, and even some of the questions that were themes from the other webinars. And you're really practical in the way that you're able to share this information with us. And we've heard time and time again that the concept of writing a marketing plan can be incredibly daunting. And often the first time a lot of operators are doing one is when they're looking at doing a tourism award submission, and everybody loves having to do those. So you've put together another practical toolkit that really focuses on domestic. So today the team is going to show us how to do it, right?
That's correct. So we're going to work through, we're not going to go through a whole lot of theory today. That's not what this is about. We want it to be engaging, and we want to show you, as you said, those practical tips. So we have created the toolkit, the next toolkit, and in it actually says one of the first lines: Jack be nimble, Jack be quick, Jack jump into the domestic marketing kit. So it's actually don't jump into Queensland at the moment. So we've put things in there. We've given away more IP than we've ever done in our lives to share with industry, and we want them to have that to help them. But today we will go with the case studies. We've had very good feedback from operators that they've loved actually seeing the real effect, what others have done that have had success. So we've got some success stories to share, and that they will show how with everything that we do, we use what is known. It's not ours. Just it's a 5 stages of travel. It's not a success matrix thing. It is just the fact of what it is. And we use that with all of our planning. So we're going to go through today with that, where Krista's going to show a lovely case study of a whole process through that 5 stage, and then Liz is going to give the practical tips.
Well, there she is. The timing of seeing Krista pop back up again is just perfect. And Krista, like Amanda, I'm sure that you have had an incredibly busy few hours. Knowing that so many of the operators that you work with in the outback and here in southeast Queensland, I have no doubt that you've been incredibly busy. So thank you again for spending a little time with us.
My absolute pleasure, Sophie.
Yeah. So we'd love you to share specifically now the experience with the domestic market, who are still, particularly those who might be still trying to pivot from that international market and are really looking to speak more to the domestic market. And for those who've already been able to take the first steps or are doing it well, how they can continue to develop. So take it away. Where do you start?
Thanks, Sophie. So I'll share with you on the screen there, and thank you, all of you. Everyone's been crazy busy today, so thank you if you are able to join us today. You'll see on the screen just 3 stages. I guess the first thing, if you haven't been in the domestic market, a marketing strategy, regardless of industry, or even target market, the strategy I feel is always really important to begin with the end in mind and just basically say, look, what do we need to achieve? Obviously, we all want bookings and cash flow, and that's no more important than now, but really have a think about the product, the experience you offer. If you're a motel operator, are they coming to your motel or are they coming to your destination? So it's really that balance of understanding your content and the marketing and the strategy of that. So understanding what you want to achieve and actually write it down and think from your customer's point of view about, okay, I want them to buy this package. Where are they buying it? How are they buying it? Am I making it as easy as possible? And Amanda's talked about target markets. I literally, particularly in this time, we're looking very strongly to drive market. This morning's announcement has put us all back to, I guess, where we were thinking when travel restrictions were lifted for Queenslanders. So I'm old-fashioned. I get out my map of Queensland or the map of region, and I will literally think, okay, I know my market is now, within that 400k radius. I'll grab my detailed map of our region and look at which roads are they literally going to drive on to get to me. We also, and it's not just during COVID times, I do this during floods, cyclones, whatever it is, because I'll share with you in a minute with Granite Belt, we had some, because of fires, road closures. But what people, and everyone said, oh, you just can't get to us. And I'm like, actually you can. You may not get on the main highway, but there's all these beautiful country drive routes to get to us. So we started sharing itineraries, and that was a big winner for whether you were a dining outlet, a cafe, an attraction. a tour, whatever it was showing the customer how to get to you. So in your marketing strategy or your plan, or just, I try and keep it to a one page really, Sophie, just, we're all busy. So just keep your marketing plan to a one page if you can, and just think how's the customer going to get to you. The secret of my success in marketing has always been the marketing mix. So if you're not familiar with that word, I'll put it in a cooking term. I try and create or be a master chef of marketing. It's about creating the right ingredients or mixing the right ingredients, which is your marketing tools, and working out over time what works. Because what works, you will not necessarily work for the next person. So I will prelude today with saying some of the advice we'll be giving may work in the regions we're working in, but you'll need to adapt them obviously to your town, your destination. On the right, there is a marketing mix that we've used for Granite Belt and a lot of people that we work with. Think about initially your content. So understanding obviously your target markets. Do you have any images or footage? And don't panic if you don't. With social media, if you can work with your customers to ask them to share a lot of their experiences that they've had with you, then ask them, and Liz will run through this with social media. If you can, also work with your regional tourism body, your local tourism body, Tourism and Events Queensland. They've got amazing footage and images that I would really encourage as many people as they can to use those images. I also think emotion and what's emotionally motivating at that time. So always think and be cautious of how people are feeling when you're marketing. On the digital side, obviously website's really important. I'm not going to run into search engine optimization today, but anyone who wants to do the mentoring can get details of this. Email direct marketing is so powerful, and when you've got direct mail and databases, and you can, I guess, get them down to your postcodes of who can travel, if it's 200 kilometres, 100 kilometres within the state of Queensland, that once you get that powerful database, that's when you can target them today. So when you hear the announcement, if you're a Queenslander, don't worry, we're still open for business. We'd love you to come and visit and what have you. Social media, Liz will be touching on, is so important, and it's so timely, which is fabulous. Also, I talk about events, promotions and competitions. And when I talk about events, everyone might roll their eyes and go, hang on, there's no events allowed at the moment. But think about the naturally occurring events. It might be sunrise, it might be sunset, it might be full moon.
Full moons, exactly, or a really great thunderstorm.
Yeah, exactly. So if you know it's full moon coming up, could you do a full moon dinner or an experience, or use that as an encouragement? So even regardless of COVID, we're lucky. Think of the beautiful winter sun. So if you're in North Queensland and you're targeting the Southeast Queenslanders, it's the weather that's going to drive them north. We all know that, but don't forget to get that messaging out there, and use the natural occurring events as well. Competitions and promotions. If you do have vacancy at the moment, please run competitions, learn how to do them on, whether it's Facebook. This is how with certain software you can start gaining databases who may be interested in your product. Personal selling. So if you're new in the domestic market, I'll jump around on that circle. Personal selling and relationship building. So if you are used to working in an international market, really start getting to know, I guess, the domestic representatives in local tourism bodies, particularly regional tourism organisations, and the domestic trade. And obviously Tourism Australia as well. They obviously not a huge domestic market normally, but they definitely are now. So make sure you ring them, find out how to work with them. And don't forget, if you do have vacancies, or whenever I work with a motel operator, a resort or tour operator, whatever it is, even a cafe, if you have a capacity or empty seats, basically, why not fill it with a journalist, a writer, a social media influencer, anyone you can, even if it's the taxi driver, anyone who influences on your business. Anyway, that gives you a quick overview of getting the plan. And just remember, I want you to be a master chef of marketing, and it's about combining the right ingredients for your business. Okay, we might flick over. My other tip is simplicity and consistency is king of cut through in marketing. What I mean by that, if you're going to share information or an image or a message, don't be afraid to repeat it again, and repeat it again, because often a consumer, you know, it takes them 12 times to see it. And the reason you've got to repeat that same message, it's got to be repeated across all that marketing mix. And don't be afraid if, I used to be quite precious about what we called in marketing our hero images. I love now, if anyone uses an image of an area or business, please use my image, just get it out there. I don't care if it's not on my social media feed or if you might have taken it, as long as you're properly acknowledged in that social media tagging, then please use it. So there's some tips on the plan and moving forward.
So we've received some questions, as I mentioned earlier, Krista, across the board from different delegates over the weeks regarding support from their local, regional and state tourism organisations and how they can go about getting support. You even mentioned it just before, you know, make sure that you're in touch with them. So can you actually give us some tips about how to actually do that? And as an LTO, how do operators get then support? And you're using the Granite Belt Wine Country as a bit of a case study for us.
Yeah. Absolutely. And like I said, the first point of call, I always try and work with as many of people in the network. So just going back one, sorry, Amanda, we'll just flick back to the map. I'll be talking about how to work with the regional tourism body and also Tourism and Events Queensland. And it's been the partnership. So for those of you who don't know Granite Belt, it's located around the Stanthorpe region in Southern Downs Regional Council. And we're part of the greater Southern Queensland Country Regional Tourism Organisation. The secret of this organisation's success, it's all owned and operated by small businesses. We don't have large chain operators or any large marketing budget that, I guess, helps catapult our messaging. And often we're the quiet little corner in the south. So they've worked really hard, over 100 operators partnering to make sure we can produce campaigns and activities to get going. So just on the next slide, I'll quickly show you the stages that we went through. And this was, they had already set up about 18 months ago. The organisation's been running for a long time, but had worked out strategies, how they go forward. And we were faced with fires on the 3rd and 4th of September last year, on top of a water shortage and 100-year drought. So there were lots of perceptions and negative media about visiting our region. So they'd already taken a huge dive in bookings because, and not that it wasn't horrendous what happened, but no tourism businesses were burnt down. They were still operating, but the perception in the media was so negative that people didn't want to come and visit. They were scared if they came and visit, they'll cause a problem. And this is with COVID as well. Some people are worried, oh, we don't want to spread COVID, so we can't come. So just be aware of these issues when you're marketing. So quickly, just obviously I've already talked about strategy and target markets, destination profiling, media PR, really maximising those things, and also partnerships has been huge. So our target markets there, we researched and outlined already, we knew what the target markets were. And like you can see on the screen there, we've included maps in a lot of our social media things as well. So we'll quickly go on to the next one. And our target markets are obviously Southeast Queensland. Northern New South Wales is a huge market for us because of our proximity to them, and also Toowoomba. We went through, when COVID first reared its ugly head, I guess, in a practical point of view, was around the 13th of March, when events were first told that they can't go ahead with over 500 people. So straight away, and we heard rumblings of what was happening obviously overseas like everyone. So we thought we're in trouble here because our businesses are already about to fold because of the drought and fires. What, excuse my expression, but what the hell are we going to do? So we really looked at using the dreaming phase in what was lock up, relaunching and booming. The dreaming phase, we worked out very quickly that people were in a negative frame of mind. So we came up with Granite Belt #MyHappyPlace and did closed Facebook group of that to encourage people who had been to the Granite Belt to share their happy memories. We also did a campaign with Behind Closed Doors where we asked operators to take us into their vineyard, take them into their soap making shop, take them, open the doors of your accommodation house and take us for a tour. So little videos, they weren't professional, but worked extremely well online. To cope with cash flow, we also did Granite Belt Delivery, or Granite Belt Delivered, which was using our database and working out what we could send to people direct to their doors. So luckily we have 40 wineries and also a lot of local products that can be packaged and sent. At the same time, during lockup, we worked together with industry because a lot of them were stressing that they couldn't do their own videos. So it was a lot about training each other and using Zoom and things like we're on today, just to say, don't be scared, pick up your phone, show me how you do it, just really practical things like that. With the relaunch, and I call that the time when it was announced Queenslanders could travel again, within 4 hours we were in market. We had this all planned, we had the strategy in place. So when I say agile, you need to react within the hours of things happening. And we were out on social media saying, this never happens. We've got lots of accommodation booking available in winter, book now. And boom, she went off. It was fantastic.
Because that's where all of, I was going to say, that's where all of this preparation and all of these tools and the workshops become so important, because we've said it a couple of times, which is get yourself in a position where you can be proactive rather than reactive when things change or when new announcements are made and the borders reopen again.
Yeah, and you really have to, the market's responding quite quickly for us.
Yeah.
So I'll just go into the next screen. So like I said, our challenge was destination profiling because everyone in our key target markets thought that we'd been burnt down. So it was very important that we used mass media and also social media to get our messaging across. And we did that in a variety of ways. We this was before the lockup. Luckily, within 4 weeks of the lockup, we hosted 24 travel writers and influencers. And during COVID, we then called on them to be my happy place and show us some great images. And just up there on screen, the middle ones, the beautiful ones that we get shared from like Tourism and Events Queensland. The ones on either side, however, have been taken by local operators. And we love what they're showing. So there's a couple there who did a pop-up coffee van, and it went off on social media. The one on the right is a gentleman who's one of our winemakers on the Granite Belt. So don't be too stressed that you don't look real polished. Just, if you're friendly, get your personality across. And we'll just jump to the next with the media PR. So we've had a lot of media coverage across mainstream media and also digital media, which is awesome. So just jumping to the next screen is partnering and growing the pie. So helping to answer that question with operators or people who are listening today, you know, how do I, or just go back, sorry, how do I get involved with those people? We worked obviously with our regional council very closely. Today, we've already spoken with them about how we're, and the regional tourism body for Southern Queensland Tourism, about how we get our messaging across. We've also, during COVID, worked with Tourism Events Queensland, but we don't go direct to Tourism Events Queensland. We work in partnership with them through the regional tourism body as the arm, I guess as the communication link there. And they helped us stage an apple cooking demonstration with a lady from Sutton's Farms, who's very famous for their apple pies, where she puts 24
delicious
apples in pie. So this was streamed live on the on Queensland's Facebook page, on the regional tourism organisations page, on council's tourism page, and on our local tourism body, not to mention Sutton's as well. And we could feed live that video. So these types of things are amazing. And
especially because
the regional tourism.
Especially because that recipe was always a secret as far as I knew. So the fact that she shared it is awesome. But, you know, as you're talking through these, And some of these things are obviously great promotions. There were businesses, particularly smaller businesses, who were finding that some of the destination messaging, though, was promoted too heavily with free things. And they felt that perhaps that doesn't really generate income or stimulate the economy. While it might be great for marketing an area, how does that actually turn into, you know, heads on beds and those sorts of things? Do you have any suggestions about how you can get support for the region?
Absolutely. It's a great question, Sophie. And I'll just share with you, we often in marketing use what we call the clickbait. So you'll create content that gets attraction. So saying things like, oh, 20 free things to do in our region will get what's called clickbait. If I was an operator and saw this, I can absolutely understand and going, oh, why are they promoting all this free stuff? We need to get paying passengers. What it's doing is attracting people to the destination. And what I would do is say, hey, if you're coming on our tour next month or this month, don't forget to, you know, visit us, stay here, and here's some other bonus free things you can do. I've even seen people package free experiences within the package that they're charging for. So it's really important to understand how to use the content and the blogs that the regional tourism bodies are coming out with.
So, Krista, I really want to be able to move through to have Amanda tell us a little bit more about value adding. So I'd love you to just wrap up, if you can, where you're at with us.
You just keep clicking through, and you'll get copies of all of this from the recording. They're just some examples of how quickly, when you're on Facebook and social media, you can actually produce a result. So just keep going through these slides, Amanda, and we'll flick to promotions. But I'm hoping that gives you, we do have a challenge on the Granite Belt, and it's been a fantastic challenge. They've had a record season ever, and they're continuing constantly to work together. I guess that's the secret of success here. And even if you can't work with everyone, get a cluster of operators that you can work with. All right.
Yeah, absolutely. Thank you so much, Krista. We'll have you come back in just a little while, but we are going to move on and have Amanda join us once again, because one of the questions that also has popped up so often is this concept of value adding, and there were questions around direct discount or product upgrade, and which you think is more effective for consumers now that behaviours have changed, and we will see them continue to change.
Yes, Sophie, I think the thing at the moment that we get a lot of with clients is, you know, do I need to discount? You know, do I need to slash my prices? And look, there are times where that may be the only thing that works, but certainly I say to people, do be very careful with that, and if you're going to do it closer to home, do it with closed user groups. So do it where you're not actually advertising that discount out to the world. I think Michael mentioned it at one stage where you can go down, but it's very hard to go back up quickly. So, you know, that's the same across all areas. So where you can, hide it. So that's the way. One of the examples that I thought was very good was actually from our lovely Whitsundays with Airlie Beach Hotel. So when I say hide it, this isn't a classic example of how to do that. So looking at your components of what is the message, what's your promotion that you want to do. This was when Alliance first promoted the $99 flights, and obviously was working really closely with Whitsundays. So here they've, you know, hidden all of the different components of the package together. So there will be discounting happening from the airline, discounting happening from the hotel and the packaging. But the customer doesn't see that. They just see what's in it for them. I'm flying for free. So being clever in your messaging. Of course, Alliance aren't giving away air flights. It's the way that it's worked into it. So whether it's go to the reef for free, you know, have dinner for free, do something that your discount, you may give a night away for free, and you may do your stay pay deals, but your stay pay deal may not have the message or the fun or the make it now happen for me, if that's not what my interest in is. It goes back to those customer profiles. So working out, depending on the customer profile and the market that you're attracting, what's the thing, what's that hook, what do they want, and make sure that's the message, that's what, either whether it's for free or it's the bonus or whatever it is, but the hook that they want, you know, if it's my husband, golf's for free. If it's me, massage is for free. So they're the sort of things you've got to look at that market and then bring that in, hide your price.
You know, yeah, go ahead.
No, I think just as far as that cost effectiveness goes as well, and I was just thinking today, when we have to go back to that drive market, again, it's, and Krista mentioned before with competitions, you know, we might not have cash at the moment, a lot of us, to be promoting our businesses, but what we have is the best product in the world. So, you know, I did have a reputation going back years ago about being a contra queen. I feel some people don't even know what that word is anymore. Now's your turn to learn it, because, you know, we have value in our product. So, you know, go out there and show that. Get, you know, television stations are looking for things at the moment. All media are looking for things, but our other partners with databases to our customers are too. So this was just a classic example of looking back to our drive market again, those automobile clubs, you know, caravan hire companies, caravan buying companies, anyone, hire car companies, whoever has got those customers, offer some competitions to get your destination and your product, package it up if you want to, out there.
There were quite a few questions that came in about how you stand out from the crowd, and I think that's never been more relevant than now, because there is so much marketing speaking to the same smaller group of people, and a lot of the messaging is the same. So, you know, as an operator, if you had, for example, you and your family as an ideal customer persona, what would be a really great cost-effective way to sort of capture their attention, particularly if you're looking at attracting new consumers and new customers?
Yeah. So Liz always laughs at this with me, as I say to her, but you're not going to get me on social. I work it, but I don't use it for my own thing. So it's very hard to market to me and use that. So, but of course, you know, lots of other people do. However, for me, my love is, there she is. My love is gardening. It's my home. It's renovating and it's cooking. And being with my family and holidaying. So if you want to get me, you've got to look at those areas that what I'm utilizing. So, you know, I am one of those more in the traditional marketing, you know, platforms. So, you know, I read my weekend newspapers, and I love all the travel and the lifestyle and the health sections and things like that. I love my Better Homes and Gardens because it's got everything for me, whether it's be the television. It's the only free-to-air probably I watch, other than some of the travel shows, but that's to watch for competition. But I tend to, you know, watch that type of thing. So I do have an opportunity today to say to people, you can have a chance to pitch out to the likes of Better Homes and Gardens. They are doing some promotions with Tourism Australia. Now, I know today is not the time that we're thinking about that interstate market, but it will come back and we have to be ready for it, and the planning has to happen. But they are more than happy to consider prizes. They're doing a promotion which will include Queensland as part of the Tourism Australia campaign in the magazine and the show. And if you send a pitch into us, for your destination, for your products, for what you want to offer, for a prize, probably looking at, again, they want a 5-night prize. It needs to be a real hook. It doesn't have to be a 5-star resort necessarily, but it needs to be an experience. It needs to be something that really shows. The other is send some pictures for stories. Now, you don't have to write it in a media release. Just dot point it down, but it needs to be quirky. Make it even that it's something, you know, Krista mentioned before the fires. There's people who've been through floods, fires and COVID, what you've done with that. But market to their audience. So, you know, if you've got something that's got a food to plate story, if it's got a renovation story, those type of things. But supply a holiday, supply a pitch, we'll get it to them, and they have promised that they will consider something for Queensland. So that's how you get me. It's those type of things, but certainly that's a cost-effective way, and we're happy to work with you on that.
Because there's no point winning a trip to Vietnam right now, is there?
That's right, but that was one of their old ones, and it was one of their very big successful promotions, and they said we could easily get up there with that.
That sounds fantastic.
Yeah.
Well, that's certainly something people should follow up with. And you said that you're not into social. It's probably a perfect time then for me to say goodbye to you and say hello to Liz, because she is certainly the digital queen. And Liz, Welcome back, Liz.
Thanks, Sophie.
We're looking a little bit like the Bobbsey twins in our matching shirts here.
We didn't do a wardrobe check-in, did we?
I'm perfectly fine with it though. So we know now that online and digital marketing are essential as it comes to doing business today, and that obviously COVID has seen us really escalate quite dramatically the way that those applications and e-commerce is being used across the board. So in light of everything that's gone on, even in the last 3 weeks since you and I spoke last, can you tell us what tourism operators really need to be incorporating, particularly into their domestic marketing, to be competitive?
Sure. So I'll share some examples throughout this section, really grassroots examples. So I think that dovetails really nicely into the case study that Krista's presented and those other concepts we've discussed already. But if we can just move to the next slide, please, Amanda. Who's driving the slides? Beautiful. No, that'll do. We'll start here. Yes, that's it. Thank you. Who gave her the license?
We're on our toes.
You're right, it's dead important. These a handful of stats here, just they pull out the clues. So these are very, recent statistics about traveling and using mobile devices and social media and hashtags. Instagram is number 4 in terms of categories or most popular topics. Travel is on Instagram. Consumer generated content is prolifically relied on. Videos, very important. Facebook and Instagram seen as the most effective for targeted marketing. So that sort of is a really nice summary of what are the clues, what are the pieces we need to be working with. So if we go to the next slide then, thanks Amanda. And I did flash this up in front of you in webinar 1. And I just wanted, before we go into sort of nitty-gritty things, just want to reinforce again, as you're going through the development of your marketing in your business, let's think about this. Let's think it's about relationships. It's about relationships with you and those potential people to come and stay with you or enjoy your tour or your restaurant. And what we have to do is build trust with them. So we can't just think of that Instagram, Facebook platform, the website as separate things. We've got to look at how we bring them through the top of the funnel and keep marketing to them. So as Krista said, keep reinforcing that message, offering, content of value. What we're aiming for is to get engagement. When people say, what are we doing this for? Yes, sure, I'm being seen. What does it mean? What's the difference? We hear about reach and engagement. If we think about social media, to explain the difference, reach is about, in social media, how many accounts your content got to. The engagement is what action did people take, and it's that engagement that means something. So when it comes to content and messaging techniques, we're aiming for engagement. So what I want to share with you as we have this conversation is some practical examples and tips around that.
We would love that, particularly those examples of how not only to get a customer to a website, but then actually getting them to convert into a booking.
Yeah, well, that's what it's all about, isn't it? We're not doing it, we love playing on Facebook. We're doing it because we actually want to drive that lead through the funnel, warm them up and get through the funnel. So the first thing is that, and you've heard this before today and in other sessions, your market is not everyone. What that means, a clue for us at the grassroots working with small businesses in tourism, is that nearly everything on this chart, your homepage, your product pages on your website, landing pages for promotions, blog posts, your email marketing content, your segmented database, guiding your users through your content themes for social media, all need to be very much on point for the needs and interests of your ideal guest. We don't want you spending time marketing to just anybody. And you don't want to attract the wrong sort of people. And right now, it's about being really clear for the next few months who you are trying to attract. In obviously, that local market, intrastate market is where our focus is going to be. So being clear and defining that. And that's going to lead you through to the higher chance of conversion. So each of these things, like a really schmick product pages that are optimized, and coming through from a homepage that really talks to your target market. They are the techniques that we teach in coaching sessions to optimize conversion.
So you've got some examples for us, obviously, of some operators who've done a particularly good job.
Yeah, and look, I interviewed Karen Cross at the Dorchester only yesterday. Actually, we made a little video because she's a shining light in terms of adaptation. She has beautiful apartments. Amanda actually case studied her own family visit there in the first webinar, talked about it. And what Karen's been able to do is to really turn around from a New Zealand market, southern state market, to really focus on that southern Queensland market. And she's reflected that through the content on her website. She's made those adjustments, as well as addressing the trust issue around cleanliness and COVID safety. She's been so clear about that through all of her messaging. But if we move to the next slide, just to reinforce this, talking to your customer, changing the cover image on your Facebook page. So this is about young family market now coming together, getting out. So, don't be afraid to use, and I want you to use, photos with people in it that reflect your target market, so they can immediately relate to it. And when we're talking about social media and on your own website, you need to make it super easy for people to engage on whatever platform they're on. So she's gone in and she has optimized her Facebook Messenger with some questions there that she's got automated responses to. So immediately people are feeling like, oh yeah, I want to ask that question. So they're in that opportunity to engage, and live chat on your website as well. Very easy, low-hanging fruit for people to do to try to capture that lead.
Liz, as a consumer, one of my greatest frustrations is availability calendars. That they're accurate and up to date, and that they're easy to use. I like it when I can just see the whole month and know which nights are available. I've had some really, I would say unsatisfactory experiences just in these last couple of weeks. Those things can really turn a consumer off, can't they?
Absolutely. And you've got to remember, when it comes to booking, you're competing with the online travel agencies, aren't you? So if you want the business directly, the experience has to be as good as them. If you objectively assess that user journey and go, well, how many clicks are they having to do? Is it really easy for them? If the answers to those things are not good, and not as good as if they go to Expedia, then you need to really think, am I using the right software on my website? Have I got the products represented properly? Am I keeping it up to date? So, that's real booking 101 stuff that they've got to get sorted.
You've got another really great example for us coming up now, where Gibson's petfriendly.com, who have done such an incredible job. And this is such a, not only an important segment, but a growing area where people want to be able to take their pets with them. It was always something that used to floor me, going to see operators who were pet friendly, found themselves being sought after.
Yeah, that's right. And being able to charge more and getting smarter too, like saying, sure, we welcome you. You can have your dog inside, just not on the furniture, but we're going to charge you an extra $50 a night. Hey, I'm a dog lover. I'll pay more than that. That's fine. But Claire, who's done this, so Claire actually works with us as a coach, but she also works part-time for Gibson's Pet Friendly, boutique pet friendly accommodation business up around 1770 in Agnes Water. And so she really is very, very clear about providing content that shows, it treats everything as a problem solution. Yep, you got a dog, you need to know about this. So if we just go to the next slide, for me, Amanda, thanks. So one of the techniques that she uses is a lead magnet. Now, some small businesses aren't familiar with the concept of a lead magnet, but this is about, so you got somebody onto your website. That's a feat, considering the clutter out there on the web, but they're not ready to purchase yet, but they're really interested in what you offer. And here's this beautiful offer of content: receive the ultimate pet lover's guide to Agnes Water in 1770. Perfect if you're traveling with a dog. So download that. Yes, I will give you your email for that. And then you can start trying to build that relationship with them. So, and that is not hard to do. You just need to be shown how to do it. So I can coach you through that. Next slide. Thanks, Amanda. I'll just show some more examples relating to this. So you can see here, and when I say it's not hard to do, because I know we show you these things and you think, well, how am I going to do that? And so it's about it being genuinely useful. How has she created this? She's used canva.com to create, basically using a magazine template. So you can see how useful this content is. She's used Google My Maps here to plot the cafes and beaches. So she's really in the psyche of her target
Customer.
market.
Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely. It's all about customer centricity. That's what this is about.
That all looks really fantastic, but at the same time as we see that and go, that really is awesome, we also hear from operators that they can get really overwhelmed with the amount of time that they might need to dedicate to social media and to marketing, particularly if they're not tools that they're familiar to. And there's also then this sort of juxtaposition of, do I pay a professional to do it for me? And maybe I don't see immediately the ROI. You know, it can be expensive, particularly if you don't know what it is that you're asking for or you're looking for. So can you give us some advice on what the best formula is?
Yeah, I can. And we've actually benchmarked. If you take, for example, like one of the most popular things we would get asked over the last 2 years is, how do I do Facebook advertising? Because people are recognizing just how targeted it is. So let's just talk about that for a split second, because it's a valuable thing in the context of the news today. Is you're targeting that local market or that day visitor. You can do that in Facebook ads. That's great, perfect. However, learning how to do Facebook ads, it's not only a creative process getting the content right, it's quite technical as well. If you want to pay, so you've either got to invest the time with a good coach showing you how to do that, great coaching sessions coming up, or you hire somebody to do it for you, or at least set up your first ad and teach you. If you get somebody to manage Facebook ads for you, you're looking at about 3 times the ad spend, just as a benchmark. So I think that's where, you know, we've kind of, over the digital age transition, we've lost a little bit of that acceptance that marketing does cost, because we've been spending so much time doing organic things that we think we can do ourselves, and then it's becoming a huge time overload. So we have to be really targeted about what platforms we use and who we're speaking to. We also need to be really consistent. So even if you've only got the time, whilst we know that the best performing Facebook pages are posting 1.5 times per day, if you've only got the time to post a few times a week, just be really consistent with that. So consistency will win each time to gradually build that awareness, and your good content is going to be the key for engagement.
And so, with that, this example's awesome, because at the same time that we talk about those things, we also hear time and time again, and I'm a great proponent of, whatever it is you're doing must be authentic. It must come from a real place.
That's right. And so many of our businesses in tourism are small businesses. So often the owner, one of the owners in a partnership, is the voice of the business. They're the personality that represents the business. And they may be a little bit shy about the concept of being that. But I tell you what, that's what creates the reality and what is authentic. And the example I've got here, Peter Gash, who many of you will know at Lady Elliot Island Eco Resort. And I met Peter a few years ago going up there doing, I was lucky, tourism judge, got to inspect Lady Elliot, love it. Get some really good gigs sometimes. And I wanted to film Peter, and it's because he had his new boat, and he said, oh, I don't really do video, Liz. And I was like, oh, come on, you can do it. Well, he's on there all the time now, but it's great because it's him, the owner, keeping his customers up to date, and it's so genuine. So if you want to just see somebody being real about it, and video needs to be incorporated into your content. You need to get a little bit practiced with that. The other tip, and it's an important one, is I had a photo up there. It's from the Northern Territory, somebody we work with up there, Catherine Outback Experience, and they are fantastic at their own social media photos. And what they do, it's the best ranking photos on social media include eyes. So people, animals, You know, so think about that, you know, so incorporating your guests, incorporating your staff, you know, and animals, and of course then food, nature as well.
Then the other thing that's really important is understanding this, which is balance in the posts, is understanding where you put your energy and what you're trying to say. If we can get that slide up, Amanda, the one that says how to balance your posts.
Just go back a few, Amanda, you'll get there.
Just flicking all.
No.
Oh, no. I think I'm not sure if that's a sign that they really want us to wrap up, but I think you giving us an idea of making sure that all of your posts are either to educate, there it is, oh, there it was, to either inspire, to educate, to invite a conversation, or to sell, and the interesting thing about that particular slide that you created is that the to sell was actually the smallest amount.
Oh, absolutely. Yeah. So the last thing, you know, people, just remember what people are on social media for. The main reason is to connect with their friends and family. So therefore, they don't want to be sold at all the time. It's a different thing with targeted Facebook ads, because they're coming up to them as a sponsored ad. They're placed really well. They're really targeted. But if they're just getting it up in their news feed, the algorithm is not going to be kind to you if you're selling, promoting all the time. So that should only be about 1 in 10 posts. Just go down another one, Amanda.
There, one more.
One more. One more. So we look, another one. That stop. I think it's internet lag. We'll blame that.
Yeah.
So you can split it up really generally, and people have probably heard me say this before. Inspire, entertain, just make people happy. People are really stressed at the moment, so give them stuff to dream about and make them happy. 30% planning, so planning, educate me, give me ideas for that drive trip, incorporate those free things, put together an ideal itinerary. Remember, you're all local experts. So you've got all that expertise. So here's a great example, Rainbow Beach horse rides, great entertaining post. Look at this from South Australian Hotel. They, in Google My Maps, they've created their recommended drive itinerary. Mount Barney Lodge, they're really into their permaculture. They've got a great audience that's into that. So they're talking about that. Just go to another one. Thanks, Amanda. The next one down. For the other thing is, remember, social media it's two-way conversation. So the other thing you can come up with is engage me posts, invite me to the conversation. So once again, Innes and Tracy out at Mount Barney Lodge, they're so good at this stuff. They're inviting people to tell them what they want in their new adventure program. So that post got engaged with very quickly. And then another example here from an operator where they're doing a shout out. Now, this is a promotional post offering a great deal to a select audience. Their followers on Facebook is, here's locals. We want to offer you this package. So that talks to what Amanda was talking about, select group. Yeah.
We've done an incredible job, I think, to get all of this information and still pretty much be on time. I'd love to get Amanda and Krista to join us. Liz, thank you so much. To see all of the panel again, so that I can thank you all. To say, as we began this afternoon, that it's been a roller coaster ride is absolutely an understatement, and obviously the goalposts have moved on us again, and we're trying to navigate this moment in time. And thank you all so much for sharing your experiences, your expertise with us. I'd love to give each of you just an opportunity to sort of wrap up your thoughts this afternoon before we allow everybody to go off and now hopefully implement a lot of these things and find themselves signing up to do some workshops. So Krista, I'll start with you.
Just be a local expert and guide your customer to you. Make it easy for them.
And you also said, Krista, to remind everybody that lives in the area that they are all ambassadors, right, for the region that they live in.
Absolutely. So anything you can do to influence the locals to be ambassadors, and that starts with you having a conversation face to face if you can, or over the phone, whatever it is.
Liz, anything else you'd like to add?
Well, I think collaboration has never been more important. There's so much you can do for your business. We can share so much about that and coach you on that. But really, working together, and simple things like going and liking and commenting on each other's social media posts, that means a lot, because the algorithm is going, oh, look at this, there's engagement here, let's share it to more. and you know, mention each other and use your destination hashtags. Be part of your local destination community and support each other.
Amanda, finally, as we mentioned at the outset, we've done our level best to be able to include as many questions as possible. And as always, at the end of one of these webinars, I invite everybody, if you have further questions, to reach out to our panelists and to QTIC. They'll do their level best to get back to you. I know that you've been working overtime to be able to do that for everyone that you're working with, but obviously this one-on-one coaching sessions that are now available should really be the launch pad for so many businesses, particularly those who may be feeling overwhelmed.
That's right, Sophie. Look, right now, I suppose, you know, today is a classic example is it's not the time to be alone. So, you know, reach out and make sure that, you know, whoever you feel can help you, then get that. Don't do it alone. You know, use the coaching even as a way to have just a new eye and another ear on your business and somebody to lean on. And if it's not through that, make sure that you are choosing somebody. You know, it's just so important. You know, it's a tough time. So please, you know, stay positive and have hope and faith in your business, and we will get through this. We will, all together.
Liz, Krista, Amanda, thank you once again. If you would like to view this webinar or the other recorded webinars, or you'd like to register for the online coaching that we've been talking about, then make sure that you visit the QTIC website to take advantage of the Queensland Tourism Industry Business Capability Development Program. Once again, thank you all for your time this afternoon, and thank you to the Queensland Government, the Tourism Industry Council, Tourism and Events Queensland, and the 13 regional tourism organisations for their support of this program. This initiative is proudly funded and supported by the Queensland Government through its Tourism Industry Business Capability Development Program. My name is Sofie Formica. Thank you once again for your time. I'm just about to go and book myself another Southeast Queensland holiday, and I hope all of you do as well. Have a good night.
Thanks, Sophie. Bye. Bye, everybody. Take care.